Hey guys, welcome back to the Crazy Juicy Love podcast with my man, Micheal Allen, dating coach. What's up, man? How are you doing?
How are you doing, Jimmy? It's really great to be back here with you.
Yeah,
Day 32 officially of quarantine.
Are you counting?
Hopefully we don't have another 32 days, but you know.
You're counting. I don't even know what day it is. It's just, I'm just like going, you know. This reminds me of my days when I used to work on a cruise ship. Like I literally did not know what day. I knew the time, what I had to be to work, but didn't know the day of the week because you're just lost. You're in the cruise ship, stuck with
Right.
people, and you're just there. Like now, I'm just here, right now.
Exactly. And yeah, you completely lose track of time when you're so in the thick of things and you're constantly moving around. But that also has the opposite effect when you're not really doing anything and you're just kind of sitting in your room.
Right.
You just don't even realize what time it is.
Yeah. And how are you? How are you doing with all this? How are you coping? Are you dealing? Or like, have you been affected by any of this in any way?
Well, Jimmy, it's just taking it day by day. Some days are obviously easier than others. Some days I just want to climb up the walls out of boredom.
I hear you.
I'm pretty content to just sit back and read a book or continue my own education into both my profession and also just other subjects that interest me. And I find that I can focus really well. So I think a lot of it depends on the day, and a lot of it depends on how much sleep I get the previous night, to be honest.
You're having sleepless nights sometimes?
Well, I think that when you have a lot of energy that kind of goes to waste during the day because you're spending the day indoors, it makes it harder to go to sleep at night. When I was working full time, I would go out, I would move around, I would get some exercise during the day, and that would spend some energy, which would make it easier for me to sleep at night. And I don't really have that right now. So my whole schedule, my whole circadian rhythm, as they call it, is completely out of balance right now.
Yeah. That's interesting because I've been sleeping like 5 hours a day. Like I get up like 5 a.m. like to start doing stuff. And I hear you because I just noticed something different too. And I just noticed this actually today, like because of all this staying home, like my back issues stopped. My lower back like muscles used to ache sometimes. That stopped. I used to have arthritis in my left toe. Like it stopped. Like literally, like I feel like this time for me, like my body is actually healing. Like my joints and everything. Like my mind, like just. And with that said, I still have that pent up energy. Just like, oh my God, like I can't fall asleep because I'm just like I'm not tired.
That's exactly what I'm facing. I have the extra energy that I'm not burning off at the end of the day, and it's keeping me awake at night. Also, I like what you said because it's happening to me too. I used to get headaches when I was working full time, and I haven't had a single headache since going on quarantine. So if there's one positive thing that comes out of this, obviously that would be the one.
Right. Yeah. Well, we got some great tips here for people who are dating in lockdown, and I'm glad. I'm looking forward to diving into these 3 things that you're providing because it is possible to date while you're in quarantine lockdown. I know what we talked about earlier before the podcast, like it's easy to just give up and just like wait and do nothing, but doing nothing doesn't get you anywhere, and you can do something to keep going and cultivating love in your life.
Yeah, it's all about pivoting. It's not that dating is dead, it's just that dating needs to take a detour.
Yeah.
Like how you're on the road and you take your typical highway to work, and then one day there's construction and they're asking you to go another way. That's exactly what this is. You just have to go another way to get to the same destination that you would have gotten to anyway.
Right. Great. So let's dive into it. Lay it on us.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing, when I'm listening to daters and I'm listening to single people talk about what's going on in the current climate, there are 3 big things that keep coming up, and I want to address each one of them today. The first one is strategies for meeting new people online, mostly because that's pretty much what we're limited to right now for most of us. The second thing is how to keep a connection strong while in lockdown. I'm going to talk about that as well. And the third one is how to deal with disappointment and frustration when things don't work out. And I think that you have to be honest, there's a high chance of that happening, especially when
Right.
we're not able to meet in the flesh like we typically are able
Right.
to.
And I love you said that because, a while ago, one of my best friends used to say, you know, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to date if I'm going to get hurt. And I just say, it comes with both. It's both sides of the coin. You can't like flip a quarter and not expect to have heads or tails. It's both. It comes with the territory. It's just how the context of how you look at the rejection or the hurt really determines your next move, your next step, and what you feel about yourself.
Right, exactly. And that's the key thing. We have to learn, especially, I mean, we need to do this anyway, even
Right, right.
normally, but we need to doubly be able to do this in this current time. We need to be able to find a way to fill our own cup,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
our self-confidence.
That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah.
Right? It's the core, it's the bedrock of everything that we're going to talk about today, because if you don't have that, how do you expect to get the results that you want in dating?
Right.
So that kind of works into my third point, how to deal with disappointment and frustration. It's basically how do you keep yourself afloat in terms of your own self-esteem.
Yeah.
When we're going through this time.
Yeah, so let's get into the first one, like online dating messaging strategies and how people can, elevate their game. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I'm speaking to nowadays, they're like, oh, I'm just going to put everything on hold. It's not worth doing online dating because there's no chance of me meeting up with them. And I think this is where we were talking about earlier, a lot of the limiting beliefs come in.
Yeah.
You can still date. Yeah, you might not be able to physically kiss them at the end of the night, but you're still able to do everything else on a date that you can with that person, right? And let's talk about some strategies. First of all, strategies for meeting them. What I would recommend for people, and this is no different than if you're doing online dating during a regular time, right?
Right.
You join about 3 or 4 sites that you think are going to have the types of women or have the types of men that you want to date. And I would say message a good 5 or 6 of them every day, right? This is a great time to be reaching out and just meeting new people and getting to know, having that initial getting to know you conversation to see if they are a potential match or not. So if you have somebody who you think is going to be a really good match, then you talk to them and you schedule something for when lockdown is over, whenever that's going to be, right? So it's a way to kind of vet potential people. So whenever this crisis does go away, you will know, oh, should I actually go see this person in real life or not, right? And it will actually save you a lot of extra headaches in the long run because you're doing all your vetting of these people online.
Right, and you've already established the connection, and you'll know exactly who to spend your time to go to. And also as I was like listening to you, like, 2 ways that that you can meet people too is like meetup.com. They're doing a lot of the groups on Meetup are doing a lot of virtual speed dating. A lot of groups are forming to do virtual connection. And I was also part of a singles group on Zoom. There was like 15 single people who were all talking about dating. So, you can invite your single friend, invite that girl, invite that guy, and come up with a Zoom party. And you can like with Zoom, the good thing about Zoom, you can like personally write the person who you find attractive and have some kind of structure if you kind of do some kind of like Zoom singles meeting.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, especially if you have a group to kind of hang out with. You won't feel as intimidated or as awkward. You've got 50 other people on a Zoom call versus just one other. I think it's you can meet many different people in one meeting at that point. And who knows, you may have 5 or 6 potential matches from that one meeting that you would want to follow up with. So I think that's a great strategy to meet new people. The other thing that I want to kind of touch on is when you meet somebody online, or when you meet somebody at an online meetup, or when you meet somebody at an online Zoom event, what do you actually say to them? This is another question that I get. I hear people saying, well, now that we're on quarantine, there's nothing going on in my life. What can I actually say to this person that's interesting, or say something to them that's going to keep the conversation going? And with that, you have to, you just talk about your day-to-day life. I mean, talk about something you watched on Netflix. Talk about something you may have cooked, a dish you may have cooked. Talk about a conversation that you had with a friend. We're still talking to people even though we're not seeing them in person. Largely our lives are still going on. The only difference is we're doing it via computer versus in person, right? It's another mental block. Yeah. Tons of interesting things happen online. Tons of interesting things happen on Facebook. People say things. People say funny things. They share jokes. Share those jokes with the person. Get them to laugh. Get them to feel those strong emotions. As long as you're getting them to feel those strong emotions, they'll stick with you. It doesn't matter if you're via screen or via person.
Right. And I don't know about you, like, just by hearing that, I mean, this is my take on it. Like, if you feel like you have nothing to say, then it means you need to start reading. You need to start like doing some education. You need to start doing some homework of like really using this time to educate yourself and like share what you learn with somebody. Some people I'm always interested in like some new discovery, some new thing. And I would say too, there's a lot of TED Talks that talk about how to start a good conversation, not without the regular old thing. My thing is always have some kind of backup question. Like, I remember one of the questions on the show, he asked a guy a question. He was like, so what was the most, profound or disappointing moment in your childhood? And why was that? How did that impact you? Now, it's kind of like a deep question, but it really sparked, what was your favorite childhood memory? I think that's what it was. And he talked about his dog getting sick and eating his bread and how it like led to this whole like story. And it's very interesting and very like learned, and what he learned from that experience. So there are a lot of ways. It's time to get creative, like tap into our creativity, because there are ways to ask thought-provoking questions. And there's a book called the Question Book too, which you can purchase on Amazon, which causes you to think deeply about things and like spark conversations.
You don't even need to buy a book online, because all you really do is Google search open-ended.
That too.
Got like 1,000 of them that you can use right there.
Right.
And that's bound to, it's going to force the other person to give more than a one-word answer, right? And when you get more than that one-word answer, you use that answer to springboard into other questions and other discussions.
Right. Yes.
And if you keep following that trail, if you keep following that chain, you will never run out of things to say. I mean, you could go for hours on that one question, on that one subject, if you just pay attention to the other person's answers and use that as a way to go into follow-up questions.
Right. Because people leave clues in the way they talk. So if you're listening, just like you said, you can pick up on the things and find something interesting or be curious. Like, oh, tell me more about that. What was that like? Like go a little bit deeper. And I was going to say too, that I'm not sure if you know this, but New York Times had an article that went viral on the 36 questions that single people can ask to fall in love. And they did this whole research on the 36 best questions to ask. So if you're stuck, you can look up this article and just pick one and start.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if I was still single, I mean, I'm not, thankfully, I have a girlfriend. But if I were single, that would be what I would do. I would talk about things that I've read or things that I've watched or things that I've done online or something that somebody else said, and use that as a starting point. And if you're saying to yourself, oh, well, girls don't read, or guys don't read what I read, well, then you're with the wrong people anyway.
Right.
That conversation would have petered out whether you were offline or online.
Right.
So there's no big loss there.
Right.
And it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it really comes down to really knowing what you need and want in the other person. So you don't have to feel disappointed when the person teeters off because like they were not meant for you. Their qualities and what they want and like does not serve you. If you are in tune with yours, you can wean out the people who are not meant to be with you. And you don't have to like make a thing. It's just like, okay, you're not meant for me. Next.
Yep. Just like offline. No different.
No different.
The medium has changed, but the message is still the same.
Still the same. Right. Yeah. All right, your next one.
All right, so the next one is about how to keep a connection strong while in lockdown. So let's say that you meet somebody on one of these events or on an online dating site and things are going well, right? You hit it off, you've got some good conversations so far, but now you're thinking, okay, we've been at this for like 2 weeks. This is normally the time when I would ask them, okay, let's meet up, let's go for drinks, or let's go for coffee, or let's go to a movie or something like that. And I can't do that right now. So what is the next step? How can I keep that spark alive? This is where, you and I were talking last time about the lost art of phone calls.
Okay.
This is a great way to reintroduce the concept of phone calls, to actually hear the other person's voice on the other line. Of course, I'll admit it's no substitute for being physically there, but it's better, a lot better than just sending endless texts and not being able to put a voice or not being able to put any kind of emotional content behind the person that you're speaking to.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. No, it's okay. I was like, I just totally agree because it makes me think of my, the last person I was with. Like, we kind of saw each other, but we spent a lot of time on FaceTime, and we talked a lot, and all that talking for me built up the anticipation to be with that person. I wanted that person even more because I got to know that person in such a deeper level that when we finally were physically together, it was just so rich. It was just so much connection. Like we just build and establish this whole connection, and that's basically what you're doing without touching, the whole physical distancing and using virtual ways to communicate and connect. Like you're building the connection, you're building the attraction. Like, and when you meet, like I'm gonna tell you, it's like electric, and like it's unbelievable. I think so. Why I think this is a good idea to connect this way.
Yeah, and in addition to what you said, which is absolutely spot on, also it's a great way to vet further the person that you're talking to online. It's another intermediate step between texting and messaging and going out and meeting them in person. And if you can eliminate them from contention by a phone call, you're saving yourself yet another headache and more wasted time with someone who wasn't going to work out anyway.
Right. Could you talk about, I know talk about vetting, because vetting is so important. I think a lot of people don't even know what that means, or that's a part of dating. Vetting, especially the first 3 months or the first couple of weeks, you're actually vetting this person. Like, I like to say it like a job. They're vetting you to see, are you a fit for the company? So can you explain what vetting means?
It's basically, as you kind of described it, it's a way of figuring out if this person, you're imagining yourself with this person, and you're saying to yourself, okay, do I see myself having fun with this person? Do I see myself having a great time with this person? Do I see myself feeling those feelings that I want to feel with this person? And you vet somebody based on the feelings that you get in terms of how they're acting towards you. Also in terms of the information they give. What are their values? What are their views on life? Are they in alignment with your values and what you think? And if they're very, very far apart, this is a great way to assess, okay, should I continue on with this person?
Right.
Or
Yes.
should I not?
Yeah.
Right. And when you're dating, you have to think about, okay, and I think a lot of people, especially guys, they approach this from the opposite angle. They're worried when they go on a date, they're thinking, okay, how do I get this girl to like me?
Right.
And I think that's the wrong way to approach it. You've got to approach it from, okay, is this girl, is she interesting enough for me?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Is she going to be compatible with my values?
Right.
Right. And when I approach dating that way instead of the old way, which is, kind of supplicating, oh, I hope you like me, right?
Yeah.
My dates went so much more smoothly and so much more successfully. You've got to flip that script and think, okay, what is it that this girl has, and is it what I'm looking for? Right? And if you go into the date thinking, okay, I'm going to be the one doing the vetting.
Yeah.
Because you should be. I mean,
you should be.
And you should be as well. Yeah. Right? It shouldn't just be a one-way street. Right? When you go in and measure that to your values, you'll find that you are much more relaxed. You'll find that you're much more confident. You'll find that things just kind of flow from your mouth a little bit more easily. You're not stifled. You're not awkward. And it's a lot more enjoyable.
Yes, when you know your values and you know your needs and know what you want, your confidence comes off so profoundly and it comes off sexy. But when you don't know, that's when the insecurity, all this shiftiness happens in the date. But when you know your needs and values and how to vet, for me, it's like the power of saving time and saving myself and just really knowing myself of what I want and what I need.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I found out online that this girl wasn't for me. Guess what? I just saved myself an entire night. I had to dress up.
And money.
I had to go out, spend money on them. And that's time and money that I could have been spending on my business. That's time and money that I could have been spending on my family. That's time and money that I could have spent, playing Call of Duty. All of those would have been better than
doing things you love, right? You can spend time on things you.
Don't think about what you lost. Think about what you're saving.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So phone calls is a great way to find out more about the person. Another thing is video calls, like what we're doing right now: a Zoom meeting, a Skype meeting, a Google Hangouts meeting, right? You and the other person across from each other. I'll tell you what my girlfriend and I did the other week. We cooked our own dinners in our own places, and then we got on to Skype, and together we ate our dinner, we drank, and we watched one of our favorite TV shows together. And that's a great way to get together with that person virtually and A, find out more about them, and B, do an activity that you very easily could have done in meet space offline, but you're doing online instead. It's the same thing, only we're a few more miles apart.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. There
so
you go.
Virtual dating is great for this time because you can still do. And it's a big thing, I know. The only thing you're missing is that physical connection, and hopefully soon you'll be able to do that again. But for now, you've just got to take what you can do and absolutely max that out.
Yeah,
take what you can and max that out. And virtual dating is a great way to do that.
And I think it's one of the reasons why it's challenging for guys, because we're so used to leading with the physical, and we can't use that anymore. We have to, hopefully, but I think a lot of us will have to learn how to use our brain and our hearts to connect now more than ever, because the physical right now ain't happening,
Right.
Or in our last ones, how do we handle dating frustration and disappointments? What do you got for us?
Yeah, just like offline, in this time, not every connection, not every virtual date, not every phone call is going to go well. And sometimes we're not going to hear from that person again. Yeah. Sometimes we may follow up with a text or a call and they may not answer. And we may go days without hearing anything. And the realistic thing is that this person's no longer interested in us. So what do? We feel terrible. Not only do we feel terrible, but now we feel terrible and we're stuck at home in our room. We can't go out and go to the gym and work it off. We can't go to a music concert and forget our troubles, right? We've got to stay in our room and think about it, right? It's like 10 times worse. But just because
I gotta think.
That,
I said, I gotta think. Oh my God.
well, yeah, I mean, I got to think about it. But just because something is harder doesn't mean that it's impossible to work with or that it's impossible to get over, right? So what are some ways in which we can do that? Well, I talked about this a little bit earlier when I talked about my furthering education. I'm looking at subjects that I'm really interested in and really interested in learning more about, and I'm diving headfirst into those. And if it's something that really interests you, think about 5 things that really interest you. Things that you don't know all that much about, but now that you have the time, could be really interesting to learn more about them. You know, pick those 5 things and dive headfirst into them. And I guarantee you, when you do that, your mind is going to be off any kind of male female thing, because you're going to be so invested in what you're doing. So invest yourself in work, invest yourself in your hobbies, invest in your activities, invest in your growth. Learn something new that you can do at home, and that's going to take time and effort and mental energy away from what you're thinking about, right? If you can do that and do that enough times and do that for enough time, then when you finally do have a break, you're not going to be thinking about that phone call that didn't go well last week. You know, because it will have completely sailed on by, because, you know, the longer something, how do they say, the longer you wait, the less you're going to think about it. Right.
I mean, also too, like, you're doing all those things, like investing in yourself, your education, and bringing value. You're actually up-leveling your value. You're mastering something. You're doing something. You're bringing value. You're bringing more to the table. You're even better prepared to have better conversations with women or men or whatever you like. You know, you're upgrading yourself basically. You know, and what better way to utilize this time to up-level yourself and bring value and bring something even more valuable to the table when you do meet someone or do get in a relationship.
Yeah, and this is especially true. I mean, this is true for everybody, but this is especially true for guys like you and me, Jimmy. We're entrepreneurs. We have our own businesses, and you know, we always have to be thinking about, okay, what do I have to learn next to stay ahead? Mm-hmm. What do I have to do next? What kind of skill do I need to have in order to keep ahead of not just myself, but also, you know, everybody else who's in my field? You know, now is a great time to invest in self-education, right? Yeah. So think of something that you can do, no matter what it is that you do for a living. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, you know, think about what you can do to up your own game, to up your own level at what you do and become even better, and immerse yourself in that. And that's going to be so good for your mental state in terms of forgetting all the other BS that's going on in your life.
Yeah, good one. All right, man. Thank you so much for providing this value to us. Before we go, I'm asking this question. So what are you learning about your self-love and life in these uncertain times?
I'm learning, you know, honestly, Jimmy, I'm going to be very transparent here. I am learning to love all humanity more deeply as a result of this crisis. I'm not saying that I had absolutely zero compassion, but I just didn't know how much more deeply I could go with the appreciation and the concern and just the overall sense of responsibility to other people.
Yeah.
Than, you know, what happened when this crisis started. So that's what I'm learning about myself, is that just how more deeply I can care.
Yeah. Wow. And where people can find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, coach_Micheal. You can also find me at my website, nogamenecessary.com. And I've taken myself off of Facebook, but you can also now find me on LinkedIn. So you can just Google Micheal Allen. You'll see my picture and some of the articles I wrote recently for LinkedIn. So I'm finding that is a much more enjoyable place for me. So I'm going to hang out there, and also hopefully I'm going to get a YouTube channel up very soon with my girlfriend.
Yes.
We're going to be sharing our own tips together on our channel. So hopefully look for that soon.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate what you've done here, and thank you for getting to being on the show.
Thank you, Jimmy. Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
All right, stay safe.
You too.